development projects through public-private partnerships to stimulate the regulatory framework for public-private partnerships to repeal the previous Act of 2013 and for connected purposes. It is distinct from the public procurement and asset disposal act, which of course just deals with procurement of goods and services in a normal way. Why I'm saying that, Honorable Chair, is for us to get an understanding how private players, what we are calling proponents, come into the picture. Honorable Chair, Section 40 of the Act. I'm now talking
just on a quick point of order. And this is my good friend. You told me that you have to leave at 12. If you're taking us down memory lane to tell us how this came about, are we going to go to the specifics? I want to request you, because you are a politician like me, to go straight to answering the questions. Leave the history to us. We are lawmakers. We draft the legislations, and we are conversant with it. My good friend, go straight to answering each of the specific questions so we don't lose.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I was actually just laying a foundation, but I'm well guided, if that's the position of the committee. So going back to the question raised by Honorable Mungatana, and I agree with him, the Kenya Association of Manufacturers have voiced concerns about electricity availability and affordability, a concern that has been raised by many other people, including Houses of Parliament, Honorable Chair. And it is true that as a result of those concerns, that the Ministry of Energy and Petroleum did come up with what we are calling least cost power development plan, which is in sync with the transmission master plan by KETRACO. Those two documents, when looked at together, will give you a roadmap as to how we intend to electrify the whole country by the year 2035, that was mentioned by my good friend, Honorable Ledama. Honorable Chair, when we say by this particular year, we don't mean that particular year. It can be much earlier than that particular year. But let me say this, Honorable Chair. For us to be able to implement these ambitious projects that are captured under the Transmission Master Plan by KETRACO, we will need a whopping 650 billion Kenya shillings, Honorable Chair. Money that for all intents and purposes we do not have as a country. We do not have it from our normal taxes, and we cannot borrow it in the normal manner given our current situation in terms of debt. And that is the reason that informs our resorting to the PPP framework, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, in that master plan, we have got projects lined up across the country. And as a matter of fact, as we speak, because we didn't have to put all this in this document, we are only referring to projects which are being proposed by Adani Energy Solutions. But if you allow me, I can point out very quickly existing projects in Coast Region. We have got the Rabai, Malindi, Garsen, Lamu line. Okay? We have also ongoing Garsen, Hola, Bura, Garissa. And at procurement stage, we have got to Mariakani, Dongokundu. Okay? And also planned, we have got Dongokundu, Shimoni. Details can be found. But Honorable Chair, to summarize, is that no part of the country will be left out in the fullness of time, Honorable Chair. On the issue of the Adani indictment, as raised by my good friend, Honorable Mungatana.
You did not mention Siaya.
And precisely. If I was to mention every part of the country, it would take the whole day.
Just your part where you come from and visit.
We have got plans, and KETRACO can confirm to construct a high voltage transmission line from Kisumu, Bondo, Siaya, Rangala, Busia, and Muyanga under PPP, Honorable Chair. But to go back to my other issue, So on the issue of the Adani
Western,
exactly under the Africa 50, we have got the Kisumu, Kakamega, Musaga, very big line plus substations along the way, Honorable Chair. On the matter of Adani indictment, Honorable Chair, under Section 41 of the PPP Act, we have got to very elaborate mechanism for undertaking due diligence. And I want to go to the point straight away. And pursuant to this section, Honorable Chair, the PPP Directorate, which is domiciled at the National Treasury, in coordination with the KETRACO, conducted due diligence exercise on the proponent, that is Adani Energy Solutions, in two phases. Phase one, of course, involved documentary review. That's what we call desktop review of all soft copies of the documents that the proponent provided to demonstrate their technical, legal, financial, and logistical capacity to undertake similar projects. The proponent, that is Adani Energy Solutions, also provided documents demonstrating their legal standing, compliance to laws and regulations, including tax compliance in their country of origin, which is India. This particular phase of due diligence was during the evaluation of the PIP, and it extended to the later stages. But at phase two, Honorable Chair, the due diligence was conducted by a team of 8 officers, all members of the evaluation committee, from KETRACO, the directorate, who traveled to the proponent's country of origin for the purpose of verifying details provided by the proponent during phase one of the due diligence. What am I saying in short? Is that at the end of the day, after those 2 phases of due diligence, the contracting authority, that is KETRACO, was of the view that the proponent passed the test, was of the very considered view that the proponent passed the test following those 2 phases of due diligence, as provided for under Section 41 of the PPP Act. We had no knowledge of any other adverse matters that could have come to light, maybe now or some months or weeks earlier. And therefore, we are proceeding on the basis of the outcome of the very rigorous due diligence exercise that was undertaken by the contracting authority in line with the law. So, the question is, would these emerging reports in any way affect the delivery of this project? We can't tell. Why? Because they are not related to this project. We can't even vote for their veracity from where we sit. And therefore we'll be engaging in speculation, Honorable Chair. The second limb of that question is, could these bribery or corruption claims have a bearing on our own process? To my knowledge, Honorable Chair, there has been no case of corruption or bribery insofar as this PIP of Adani Energy Solutions is concerned, up to now, up to this very moment. On the questions by Honorable Ledama, as I've said again, we didn't intend to communicate that Wajir, Mandela, Turkana will be sorted out in 2035. No, that was not our communication. But let me say this: there's this notion that Africa 50 or the consortium of Africa 50 and other possible proponents are cheaper than Adani Energy Solutions. Honorable Chair, if we were to propagate such an argument, you'd be comparing oranges with, I think, mangoes. Because the two are not comparable. These proponents' proposals are not comparable. Why? Because they are proposing. They are giving proposals in line with Section 40 of the Act based on their preferred projects. They are looking at the landscape and coming to us with proposals in pursuant to Section 41 and telling us, hey, here we are. We want you to allow us to undertake these particular projects. And then we evaluate if that proposal, or if those proposals and those projects are conform to the requirements of the provisions of the Act. And once we are satisfied, then we proceed to engage them in negotiations, Honorable Chair. So, Adani Energy Solutions made proposals in respect to 4 projects, which I've highlighted in the report. Africa 50 and the consortium similarly did make proposals on other projects. In fact, 2 projects. Yes, on 2 projects, 2 other projects, separate projects, different lengths of transmission lines, different number of substations, different terrains, and so on and so forth. So it is premature to say, as we speak, that Africa 50 and its consortium, or any other proponent for that matter, are cheaper than any energy solutions, because in any event, for Africa 50 and its consortium, we are simply at the negotiation stage. We are yet to get to the project agreement or to commercial closer. For Adani, we have been able to go to the commercial closer. And that's why we executed the project agreement on the 9th of September. Project agreement, yes. Yeah. So that basically answers the second limb of the question, and indeed the last limb of the question by Honorable Adama. If you allow me, you can add 1 minute and then Motive 1 minute, just to sum up.
Honorable Chair and honorable members, our CS has clearly enumerated some of the issues. I just want to answer Senator Mukandana in very brief remarks. Number 1, in your own county, we have a project which is among the projects that and our CS did mention that I'll be traveling to China to unlock. 1, we have a stall project between Garsen, Bura, Hora to Garissa. If we complete that project, Honorable Senator, then the Mombasa ring will be complete. Why? Because you'll now be able to get power from Kembere, which are the hydros, through Hola, Bura to Garsen, and all the way back to Rabai. Now, from Rabai, you get power from Geodamo through Susua, Olkaria, Susua, Isinya, all the way to Mariakani, Rabai, then to the coast region. So that is one project that we are very keen in completing. Number 2, and very important, is completing, which is a line that is under construction, 220 kV line between Rabai. We are doing a new line between Rabai, through Bamburi to Kilifi, and then when His Excellency the President traveled to Korea, on his first visit to Korea, he negotiated for a loan that is going to help us do 3 critical transmission lines. Number 1 is complete the route between Narok and Bomet. Then Kabarnet to Rumuruti, and most important is Marindi, Weru to Kilifi. You realize that you have a plant in Weru, that is a global plant. So we need to complete that ring. So it is not true that we are not prioritizing costs. We are prioritizing costs, and we do know the need that investors are having in the coastal region. And let me mention that KPLC is at the tail end of completing a very critical substation at Bomani. That will help us stabilize power around that region, because that region is becoming a serious load center, second to Nairobi. Number two, Senator Ledama, who is my very good friend, did mention the price, and Waziri has enumerated. But let me reiterate the point that Waziri is making, that here Adani are doing 4 projects. Let me speak about the Gilgil Thika Mala Konza. If you look at the land acquisition cost, is a 400 kV line. If you look at the land acquisition cost on that line alone, you cannot compare the land acquisition cost of that line and compare it with Lesos to Lesuk. Lesuk is somewhere in Samburu. We want to do that line between Lesos and Lesuk. The land acquisition cost, the terrain are totally different. And so therefore, the impact on the tariff cannot be the same. If you look at Rongai, Chemosit, Keringet to Chemosit, again, a totally different terrain. Why are we doing these lines? Number one, and Kenyans need to understand, realize that between 1978 to around 2008, we never invested in the transmission network of this country. We have since grown our capacity from 1,000 megawatts to 3,300 with no alternative evacuation routes of power. Let me say that we had the nationwide blackout around 25th of August this year. And one of the reasons why we had that blackout is because power from Olkaria, power from Lake Turkana, and power from Ethiopia does not have any other evacuation route other than from Suswa to Isinya to Mariakani, and from Isinya to Embakasi. We want to complete the Nairobi ring such that we have an a line out in Malewa, such that now that power from Suswa can go through Malewa, through Gilgil, to Thika, Mala, Konza, and complete the Nairobi ring. I can tell Kenyans that if we had that link, and we had that problem we had in Suswa, we would not have had a national blackout, because power would have had an alternative evacuation route. Let me speak about the issue of Marsabit and Isiolo, because we want to connect them to the grid. That link, we had a contract that is between Loyangalani to Marsabit, Marsabit to Isiolo, which was tied with the Thika Malakonza ring. But we have not been able to pay the counterpart funding complete. But if we descope this Thika Malakonza, then we can be able to do the line between Loyangalani, Marsabit, and Marsabit to Isiolo and connect those towns to the grid. We have since written to Ethiopia Power to help us connect Mandera, and that means if Ethiopia Power gives us what we need, we shall be able to connect Mandera. The same way, Moyale gets power from Ethiopia. Mheshimiwa Ledama, you did mention about Lodwar. Lodwar, we are connecting by April 2026, because we have already procured a contractor. Contractor is on the ground doing a line from Lokitang all the way to Lokichar, all the way to Lodwar at a cost of 900 million shillings. So Lodwar again will be sorted and will be connected to the grid. Lastly, is between Garissa and Wajir. We have since submitted a feasibility study to connect Wajir to the grid. And once National Treasury approves, we seek for financing so that we connect Wajir to the grid. Thank you, Chair. Submit.
Thank you very much. I think before you go to supplementary questions, let's agree that time is really running very, very fast. And indeed, I thought that this engagement needed a little bit more time. So
just clarification.
I don't know whether we allow you to ask a supplementary question. But please make it very brief. Yes. That's exactly what we want to do.
A quick one, because I think it's important. Just a clarification. Waziri, did you say that a team of Ketraco conducted due diligence on Adani? Because I think by practice, it's supposed to be conducted by an independent agency. That is issue number one that I want you to clarify. Number two, you alluded to Section 41 of the PPP Act. And if you read it carefully, it bars parties that have been engaged or are charged with corruption. Now, this issue of Adani being indicted, doesn't that raise concerns about the company's ethical practices? Because you've said here categorically that regardless of what you are getting to know, you will continue, regardless of any other company raising concerns about their ethical practices. You will continue with the practice. And then finally, you still have not answered. Why are we taking power to where power is and leaving out Wajir County, leaving out Mandera County? Those two questions you've not answered.
I think on that one,
maybe
I think I got the answer to that. Because other members also want to participate. Before you even get to ask you a supplementary question, because I think this session is not going to be enough. Let's
and it's connected.
Senator Mgatana. Let's allow Senator Sifuna to go, Senator Karware to go, and then the Vice Chair. If we still feel that we've not exhausted this, I think we can still engage, because I think the answers that I got, because maybe I'm more technical, so I'm listening. I think the question of when the power is to be connected to, I think I've gotten the answer to that. But let's Senator Sifuna go and then Senator Karware. I have a feeling that time is running very fast, and I thought what the peers explained, this is something that we needed to have interacted earlier on, this information that we needed to have earlier on, and this explains why we need to have another session longer, whereby we need to explain to Kenyans what is being planned by when. So Senator Sifuna, and then Harwale, Senator Mugatana, I'll still give you a chance to ask you a supplementary question, but Waziri and the PS and CEO, please hold it brief, kind of an executive summary. If we are not able to cover it, then we can still engage at another date. Senator Sifuna.
Chair, unlike you, I'm not a technical person, and the CS knows that long stories wear me down. We are not here to discuss these issues of the source, where and where. We must address the elephant in the room. We must address the elephant in the room. And Honorable CS, I want to start where you mentioned, with the constitutional principles of procurement. Under Article 227, there are 5 principles of public procurement. It doesn't matter which mode of procurement you employ. Those 5 constitutional principles must never be lost. And I want to draw your attention to those principles, that it has to be fair, equitable, most importantly, transparent. The transparency is the elephant in the room, Honorable CS. So that I have grown increasingly suspicious of this procurement process under the PPPA Section 40, because it is not a transparent process. I sit in the Transport Committee, Honorable Chair, where we have interacted with this same Section 41 that the Cabinet Secretary is alluding to all the time. Honorable Chair, the question we have put to Cabinet, CSS we have interacted with, first of all, when did government abandon open tender as a means of procuring projects in this country, including these large infrastructure projects? Number 2, when you receive a privately initiated proposal, what is your responsibility to the people of Kenya under those principles that I have mentioned, including transparency? When do you disclose? Do we wait for whistleblower like Amenya to tell us that a proposal has come to Ketraco? We have interacted with Ketraco in this committee. We know the stories of all these transmission lines. That is not why you are here, CS. We want you, when you're here, to address the constitutional principles of transparency. How long should it take Ketraco to disclose to the people of Kenya that a privately initiated proposal has come? And as Senator Ledama has told you, under this specific law, the evaluation of a privately initiated proposal has to be done by the PPP Secretariat. So when we write to you as Parliament and we say, you come to appraise this committee on the PPP deal between Ketraco and Adani, don't sell us stories of transmission lines to Mandera. That's not why you are here. So, Honorable Chair, for me, the key questions are these. The principles of the Constitution require transparency in this procurement. When did government policy, why can't the government, this government declare it position on public procurement. Let us all know, let the entire world know that now we are going PPP and that privately initiated proposals are the way to go. We have raised concerns of having all this critical national infrastructure in the hands of one company. I refuse to believe that in the entire globe, the entire world, only Adani can do airports, only Adani can do power transmission lines, Honorable CS. Only them can come up with systems to manage our healthcare. I refuse to believe it. It is because the policy of government is not open to everyone. If the entire world knew that there are these opportunities, I am sure, CS, you would receive more than one proposal. Number two, even in the Transport Committee, we want to see the process that was undertaken by the PPP Directorate, not stories from Ketrako. And I have a lot of respect for Engineer Mativo here. Every time I have issues, when I was in Lamu when the transmission lines were down, I raised you and you keep updating me about transmission lines to Lamu. I don't live in Lamu. And I'm not going to be like my colleagues here who are asking whether there are transmission lines to their villages. No. I want to, because I'm a senator of the Republic. My job is to, I don't know how I can express it. But, therefore, Minister, what you need to tell us, address the process under which this was undertaken. If the proposal, as per your response, was received on the 11th of September 2023, we want to see how it was processed and address the transparency concerns of Kenyans so that we see that it was a process that was pursuant to the law. I also want to read to you Article 227D, that any act of Parliament, and you know I was not in Parliament when you were passing this law, shall prescribe a framework within which policies relating to procurement and asset disposal shall be implemented and may provide for all or any of the following. And if you go to D, sanctions against persons who have defaulted on their tax obligations or have been guilty of corrupt practices or serious violations of fair employment laws and practices. And when you go to Article Section 41, which you have quoted yourself, if you go to 41B, the Directorate, in coordination with the contracting authority, shall, before commencing an evaluation of a PIP, conduct due diligence to confirm that the private party has not been debarred by any country or international organization from participating in public partnerships, is not corrupt, has not engaged in acts, and has not been sued or convicted. There is a distinction. There is a distinction, Waziri, between active legal proceedings and a conviction. So, for you to sit here and tell us, oh, we are engaging in rumor mongering, when there is an active indictment in a jurisdiction which you can confirm in 2 minutes, your ministry should be able to confirm whether an indictment has been issued against anyone or whether the active legal proceedings. The concerns of Kenyans cannot be dismissed like that, Waziri. It cannot be dismissed like that. So therefore, for us, what we want you to address is a transparency question in the process. Bring us minutes of the Directorate. We want to see the officers who were involved in that decision making. We want to see the documents that were tendered. We need to see the PIP itself. Please, Honorable Chair, this response by the ministry does not address anything that we were interested in. I can tell you that for a fact. And lastly, when we were interacting with Adani issue at JKIA, we raised grave concern because we want to understand if, for instance, you wanted to upgrade JKIA, we already have a functional runway, we have a terminus that is creaky, but it is there. If somebody comes to upgrade JKIA and instead of telling us that the first phase of the project is to build a new runway and a new terminal somewhere else, and they come and tell us they want to start by upgrading the existing runway and start running the facility with what we have already built, it raises suspicion for us. And in the Transport Committee, we said, if phase one is not beginning with new staff, a new runway and new terminus, then we don't want this project. In the same vein, Waziri, if you look at the projects that you have awarded to Adani, you are talking about existing infrastructure. This is what your document says, unless you read English different from me. The 4 projects I can see here, The scope includes development of line-in, line-outs to integrate new lines and substations to existing projects. New substation at Keringet, Rongai, Nakuru. If you are talking to me, I don't come from Northeastern, from Garissa. You want to build new substations where at least they have something. Under the principle of the Constitution, even why we have the Equalization Fund, your priority should be to bring infrastructure in other areas to a level that is enjoyed by other people. So when a PIP project comes, if I'm the Cabinet Secretary for energy, I will prioritize companies that are telling me they will take electricity to where it doesn't exist.
Members,
as opposed
maybe,
to...
as we are arguing this, maybe we should also not forget where the population, electricity ban, the PS has said, 1,000 megawatts some years back, now 3,000.
Oh, no, Chair.
Redundant
Chair, allow me
systems,
to
that's
make
very
my
technical.
Point. Chair, allow me to make my point. Because if we start going into these issues, even one Kenyan living on a far-flung area has constitutional rights to electricity. And I am sure the people of Nairobi will not complain that there is no, what are you calling it, ring line. Take that line to Garissa, give them electricity there as well before you come and upgrade our infrastructure. We're not saying it's not important, it's not a national issue, but please, where should the first, who should be given the, it's an issue of equity. And Honorable Wandayi, fortunately for you, you know me, and you know my position on equitable distribution of resources of this country. You know the long struggle we have had with you to solve the problem of marginalization in this country and to repair some of the damage that has been done by bad politics. And lastly, Honorable Wandayi, you know my aversion to promises and plans. I'm very shocked. You are now talking the language of Kutenga. That one, Honorable Wandayi, I have to object, and you will allow me to object. I have finished, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you very much, Senator Sifuna, Senator Karware. And please, members, we are talking about having a constraint on time. Maybe we just go to the point.
You can give up going to State House.
Senator Karware.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Minister, this is the first time I'm interacting with you since we last met before you were appointed. Congratulations. This meeting presents you an opportunity, Minister, to clarify to the country whether, after the emerging issues, especially in the jurisdiction in the United States of America, you can still trust Adani with those 4 projects. Minister, Kenyans are waiting to see whether you are the parent who will, upon receiving information that somebody has a track record of raping children, you would still hire that person to take care of your children in your home. My second and last question, Minister, is I think you are yet to forget your good old days in the office of the Chairman of Public Accounts. In view of the seriousness of the reasons for the indictment of Adani in the US, do you think the due diligence that was conducted and validated him requires to be audited or requires to be reconsidered? Minister, in view of the fact that one of the findings there has been that the guy has a track record of bribing his way into winning projects. Thank you, Minister.
If I can just respond.
The last one. The last one, then you can answer the 3, and then maybe after that, maybe CS we can agree with members when to continue with this meeting.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Chair, mine is one is a question and then another one is a comment. Chair, I wanted to find out, to clear the air, because this Adani issue has been there everywhere because of the airport issue also and the digital superhighway. I wanted the CS to avail to the committee the due diligence report for the 3 or 4 companies that initiated the BIP, so that this thing will clear and it will basically sort out all these issues. Second, Chair, is because of the CS had requested that he wanted to leave early. We wanted him to tell us. I think he's also not listening. I wanted him to tell us, because we have like 15 minutes to noon. If he's still going to leave at noon, then maybe we need to agree, we give him ample time, so that when he comes next, either here or in a retreat, we exhaust all these issues. We also get to know what is happening in the rest of the country, so that we don't just focus on this particular issue.
Thank you, thank you. Sorry.
Chairman, a quick one.
And then, Chair, if that will be the reason, then we will not then continue, so that we give him enough time to prepare, because including what happened today, I mean, we've seen from New York, so that so that he stops here.
Kamgatan,
I was saying
a quick one, please.
A very quick one. I am very sympathetic, let me say this, with the effort that has been made. I've said it before and I'm saying it again. The effort to try and solve the problem of distribution network. The effort that Ketraco has done and the government, and the fact that you have somebody now to deal with these matters. Questions there and all those issues, but I am 100% happy that we have somebody on the table. The question, Minister, that I wanted you to look at, and I didn't like the way you answered. When, Mheshimiwa, you say that we shall proceed with this irrespective of what is happening, I think, and knowing that the due diligence was done before, it is dated, wouldn't it be a good idea for you to say, given the developments, I would undertake as government to write to find out whether they have the capacity to still continue with the project. Why? Because contracts in law can be frustrated by what is called force majeure or act of God. So you need to tell us that as a responsible minister, I'm going to write. You don't tell us we will go on irrespective. I don't think that is the way we want to move this country. Mr. Speaker, Chairman, I submit.
Let me just clarify.
Thank you very much.
Allow me, yeah.
Yes, please.
And thank you, Chair. Really, I would really want, together with my team, to get some more ample time in the future, the shortest possible time from now, possibly a retreat, to have a full day for us to discuss all these issues. But I'm very, very happy with the questions and indeed some of the comments that have come from the membership of the committee. They are very, very objective. And let me just start by saying that, first and foremost, in the transmission master plan developed by Ketraco, we have got about 90 transmission lines. Adani Energy Solutions has only proposed to construct 4 of those 90 lines. That is one first thing I have to say. 2, I want to say that the due diligence I am talking about was undertaken in 2 phases on Adani Energy Solutions. Okay? Adani Energy Solutions. I understand there are other branches of Adani that deal with other aspects of infrastructure development. But I'll come back to that later. Let me just go back to the question by Honorable Sifuna. And I agree with Honorable Sifuna, because the principles set out in the Constitution are very clear, are very, very clear. In Article 227, And in fact, even in the Public Finance Management Act of 2015. Okay? But I want to say this, that what we have done so far is fully in compliance with the provisions of not only the Public Procurement, Public-Private Partnership Act, but it's also in full compliance with the provisions of the Constitution. And, Honorable Chair, the question has been asked about the matter of transparency of this particular method of PIP, and very legitimately so. Honorable Chair, when you go to section 37, subsection 1 of the PPP Act, you will find the various methods, in fact there are 4 methods, of public procurement under this Act. And that is direct procurement, privately initiated proposal, competitive bidding, restricted bidding. And the Act goes at great length in highlighting conditions and circumstances which would dictate the application of one method or another. Okay? And therefore, Honorable Chair, it is indeed true that the particular method in this case, that is the PIP, the public privately initiated proposal, in our view, and indeed, upon the receipt of this proposal from Adani, we were able to assure ourselves that the proposal met the threshold set out in section 40, subsection 2A. And it's very clear if you read the Act, Honorable Chair. We need to satisfy ourselves that is this in line with the priorities of the country, does it meet the infrastructural plan, and so on and so forth. So there is no doubt whatsoever in our minds as a ministry, and indeed government, that in the circumstances that we found ourselves, given the serious constraints we have in our transmission infrastructure, this proposal by Adani Energy Solutions passed the test. But let me also hasten to add, Honorable Chair, because Honorable Sifuna, again rightly so, asked about at what point do we disclose this to the public. The matter of public participation has been well canvassed through and through in courts and elsewhere. Public participation under Article 10, sub-Article 2, and Article, I think, 201. Okay? Principles of public finance also has element of public participation, in addition to principles and values of governance under Article 10, sub-Article 2. Honorable Chair, the Act as it is currently, in fact, doesn't even expressly provide for public participation. But we went out of our way as government, conscious of the high demand of the Constitution and case law as now established, especially under in British American Tobacco versus CS Health. And we undertook very, very elaborate and comprehensive public participation. I remember and there's a report. We have a report on purpose which we can share with the committee at an opportune moment. I remember upon my swearing in as Cabinet Secretary, I actually did participate in one of those public participation events, personally, where there were all shades of opinion, Honorable Chair, well before the execution of the project agreement on the 9th of September. We shall be more than willing to share with the committee all these reports. And finally, Honorable Chair, is the issue of the due diligence report that has been asked for by the Honorable Vice Chair. And I agree with him. We are going to avail to provide to the committee these due diligence reports. And let me also conclude by saying, one of the reasons why actually government resorts to PPP, apart from the issue of money that we shall get from the private sector, is the matter of risk. This model of public procurement actually transfers most, if not all, the risk to the proponent. And therefore, even if there are those fears, based on the reports that are emerging from the media and elsewhere, we have got no worry whatsoever from where we sit. That even if in the event that something untoward were to happen, including vitiation of a contract as a result of force majeure, there would be no risk on the part of the government. Okay, the way this thing is structured is such that most of the risks, if not all, are to the proponent. And that's why they're able to, of course, invest their money and with the hope of getting back their investments in a period of 30 years or so. I would want to ask Honorable Chair, with utmost humility and tremendous respect, if you could then allow us to conclude at this stage, and then, of course, with the idea that we can come back at the earliest possible time, when we have got enough time the whole day, and delve into many other issues, so that we can also deal with the issue which is scheduled at 2:30. There's some input I need to make. Honorable Chair, if you indulge us.
Thank you very much. Indeed, there are many questions I personally could have wanted to ask, but I'm also looking at the time. I can see members have already want to put a supplementary question.
Chair, it's not a supplementary question.
Yes.
I want you as the chairperson to be very clear on the documentation that needs to be submitted on this deal.
Yes.
These long stories of the Wajir Mandera transmission lines, that is not why we are here. We want the date, the proposal itself, how it was received from Adani, how it was processed, when it was forwarded to the public procurement or the private public partnership directorate, how it was handled, minutes of those committee meetings, the agreement itself. We will read for ourselves what the agreement says. I was looking at you very suspiciously when you are saying that there will be no consequence of a termination of a contract. As a lawyer, I know for a fact, Waziri, you are lying. So what we will require is to read these things for ourselves.
Agreed with you, Senator.
So
agreed with you.
All those documents.
Let's ask for the documentation. But I also think it would also be fair for the Kenyans to know what is it that the ministry is planning to do. It is not just about Adani. And as you do that, I would also wish to request that maybe these counties will be listed. Now that you know the cost, why don't you get another person instead of waiting until for so many years who can start implementing them, because we know that the Kenyan balance sheet cannot be able to support anything. And maybe the way to go to pacify our colleagues in other regions is also to get now people who can get this other implemented. As you do that, maybe as legislators, we need to look at what gaps should be filled so that we can legislate on that one. But also on the information that comes to the people. At what point? The public participation, we did not get to hear about it. Waziri must also admit that I'm one of those keen Kenyans who follow issues up. And I would wish that moving forward, as we now do these things, that you also inform us, because we are people's representatives, so that now the public participation can only not be seen to have been, how do you put it? It is not only done, but it is seen to have been done. Members.
Just briefly, Chair, before you move further. I think it will also be important, and I really would like to beseech you, my good friend, that let us not act as if we're the only visitors in Jerusalem. We're not oblivious of what is happening. We're in the issue of Adani. I think it will be important for you to at least go slow. You know, it is good for us to get in and defend everything we are doing, but it's also good for us to realize that when we sit here, we are the ombudspersons of the citizens. And what we're hearing out there is not good. So instead of rushing in, suppliers actually also, in terms of the documentation, in your page 4 of your submissions, you indicated that there was public participation carried out. Give us a report on that. The chair has just told you he's not aware of any public participation. We, in this Committee of Energy, are not aware of any public participation. So I think it is important.
Senator Ledama, I'm very surprised that Wandayi would go to an important public participation and not even carry his SG along, as I was there. On such an important project. How did he find out about this public participation? These are questions I want answered.
As we conclude, Senator Ledama, so there is no SG for protest.
Yeah. So my good friend, my good friend, in the spirit of full disclosure, because we also know that we do not have enough money to be able to fund this using taxpayers' money. However, in the spirit of full disclosure, provide us with all the contracts, okay? Provide us with all the due diligence report, provide us with minutes, public participation, and clarify whether you contracted an independent body to go out and carry out due diligence, not Ketraco members. We are being told Adani has bribed people, and we live in this country, and let's just call a spade for whatever it is worth. People get bribed, you know. So let's submit those documents, and then we can be able to share with the public, and the public will judge us.
Thank you, members. As I let the friend of the committee introduce himself so that we can let the CS, because we had promised, and it's good we keep our part of the bargain, we had promised that we're going to release him by 12 o'clock, and that's why they came very early. Introduce yourself, make a comment, a friend of the committee, and then we let the CS.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. Cherargei Kiprotich is my name, Senator of the Republic of Kenya, Vice Chairperson of County Public Accounts Committee, and Senator from Nandi. I think, Chair, the issue of Adani is national interest matter, now that is cross-cutting from energy to roads. And Chair, as the CS leaves, there is an indictment from U.S. Justice Department where they are accusing Adani Gautami of massive fraud. And it happened even in Switzerland where his money has been frozen, Chair. So in future, when the CS, my brother Opiyo Wandayi, he should go slow on this issue of Adani. It doesn't look good. It is untidy for the country. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, CS.
Before we rise,
yes,
just to again clarify that as we speak, we have got a court order stopping further progress of this particular project proposal. So as we speak, it's in court. Of course, we are fighting to have the order lifted, Honorable Chair.
Bwana CS, had you said that? Bwana CS, had you said that before we could not even have discussed that, because we are quite wary of matters sub judice, and at times the boundary is very slim. But let's stay at that point. We will get back to you. We'll write to you what we need from your side, and then we suggest, members, if you agree, that even before we go for our recess, that we sit on this matter, because I think it's a matter that is really quite weighty. And I see the CS and the PS, they have quite a lot of information, not only about Adani, but what we are doing holistically about the power and the energy sector. And I think as we handle this thing of Adani, let's at times also give Kenyans hope that there is a lot more we are doing than just the bad Adani thing or the good Adani thing, whichever it falls, that we are planning a lot for them. And I had members here say about their counties, and I thank Sifuna that he said his nationality, he's not going to ask about Nairobi. And Senator, very good. We would encourage that mentality. But we must also look at how are we trying to address the issues that are facing the Kenyans, and wherever they are, whether it's one Kenyan or many Kenyans. And I think we should give the ministry time enough to explain themselves as we address these side issues. So if you allow this, Bwana CS, our secretary will get in touch with your ministry so that we can agree on an appropriate time where we would have ample time so that we can go into the details of this. Members of press, thank you very much for taking your time and covering this. Waziri, thank you very much for appearing, and we'll be looking forward to engaging you in the next 1 week or so. Thank you very much, members. I think, members, we sit a few minutes as we let the CS go, or maybe we can adjourn this meeting because we're also going to prepare ourselves. Okay, the minutes is adjourned. There being no other business, the minutes is adjourned. No, we said adjourned. So you protect the investment. I had to shut down my factory is gone because I did not have power. What we need, the demand for power is so much. What we need is several redundant